I want to first talk about how Easter changed the world, though. And it did that by first changing the lives of Jesus' disciples. One of the most convincing proofs for the truthfulness of Christianity is what happened to Jesus' men after that weekend. You think of their mental state on Friday. Judas betrayed Jesus and then killed himself. The leader of the bunch, Peter, denied Jesus. When Jesus was arrested, they all turned and fled, except for John. He's the only one that stayed by Jesus. And yet 50 days later, here are these men taking to the streets of Jerusalem, saying that Jesus is alive. He is the King of Kings. What is it that turned these simpletons and cowards into these brave, courageous souls? Well, it happened. Easter happened. He rose, and none of them took it back. All of them except for John. John's the only one who was allowed to live a full life and fill out his days. Interestingly, little I love you from Jesus. The rest of them suffered martyrdom, but each one of them went to their deaths saying, he's alive. They never took it back. Why not? Because they knew it was true. Easter changed the disciples, who then went out and they changed their part of the world. They changed Jerusalem and the surrounding regions as they launched this movement that was built upon allegiance and worship of Jesus Christ. From there, it spread so quickly. It spread like a virus. Bad analogy. Like a wildfire. It spread everywhere. There was something about the message and the love that they showed that was contagious. That was so compelling they each wanted in on it. By the end of the first century, Christianity had spread to every metropolitan center of the Roman Empire. By the end of the second century, it was in Africa. It was in India. By the end of the third century, it had reached as far as England. A third century writer named Tertullian, writing a letter of defense to a Roman official, said this: "We are but of yesterday, but we filled every place among you. Cities, islands, fortresses, towns, palace, senate, forum. We have only left you your temples, and you can have them." You have to ask yourself, what accounts for the rapid spread of Christianity? It didn't spread the way Islam would spread 6 centuries later, at sword point, with people being forced into conversions. These first Christians had no power, carried no swords. In fact, they were the ones being hunted. What was it? Christ was alive. And it changed the ones who received him into their life. Tertullian said that the talk on the street back in his day among the Romans and the pagans looking at the Christians was, see how they love one another. And it was so true. There were 2 global pandemics that happened in the first 3 centuries of church history. And one of the things we can see from the records is how mesmerized the Romans were, watching at the way the Christians ministered to each other and cared for each other and their neighbors too, in the midst of so much suffering. What allowed them to do that? It was Easter. It was the power of knowing the power of the risen Christ in their lives.